How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about The Invisible Man from 2020, directed by Leigh Whannell and starring Elisabeth Moss. Now, in this movie, Elisabeth Moss's character is dating a man named Adrian Griffin, and he's a very rich, successful man, but unfortunately also very abusive and bad. So she decides to leave him to sneak out, and it turns into this whole big thing, and she winds up hiding at her friend's house. So she's there for a while, really paranoid, wondering what's gonna happen, thinking that Adrian won't leave her alone, when suddenly she gets the word that Adrian has actually killed himself, which she thinks is totally out of character and surprising for him to do. But she begins to start to relax until things start mysteriously going wrong, and she remembers that Adrian had been, studying optics, and she begins to suspect that he's found a way to turn himself invisible and is using his supposed suicide to haunt and torment her. Now, the big problem with this too is nobody is gonna believe that other than her, and you really get, thanks to Elisabeth Moss's portrayal, you see that she is a woman who is very much haunted by her past, and when people hear that, they don't hate her, but they begin to suspect that, she's suffered severe damage, and no one really believes her, and that's part of the concept behind this. In recent years, you may have noticed with, things like A Quiet Place and Don't Breathe and It Follows, concept-driven horror movies have gotten really popular, and the original Invisible Man was one of the earliest examples of a concept-driven horror movie, so it makes sense for it to return now. You get, how do I know where he is, but also, what's his plan, and how do I convince people? And that's a lot harder in this one. If you remember the old Invisible Man, the general public finds out and knows really quick. But here it's like, how can I convince people this is happening? Even my, my close friends, like her sister, doesn't even believe her. And it's really good and fits within the modern concepts, And also, they changed it where it's more tech-driven now. Science in itself is kind of changed as far as what we know and what we're focusing on. And the old Invisible Man, it was all, chemicals and the strange properties they might have, that could induce madness. But here it's like, how could we invent an Invisible Man? What kind of modern tech do we use? And the movie doesn't get too techy, but it definitely is there, and this is the same director that did Upgrade, which was a very good modern tech horror movie, so he really was able to bring over a lot of his experience from that. But that is something, there are two things that people talk about with this movie that I don't personally consider flaws, but they are, I guess, worth bringing up. One is, this is in no way a remake of the original Invisible Man. They don't ever really try to do any of the same plot. It's the same, base concept that a guy turns invisible. But actually, the original Invisible Man was Jack Griffin, and this is Adrian Griffin. So you could even see this as more of a sequel, even though it doesn't really relate to the first ones, other than that it's the same type of character, which is something I would have been more critical about if the movie wasn't good. Like, when you go out and you try to do something different, if you don't stick that landing, it's like, why'd you do such a weird, different thing? But if you do, it's like, wow, you really reinvented it. And since it stick the landing, I'm not going to be too critical that it tried to be something completely different. The other thing is, one of your main characters is invisible, and they some people talk about potential plot holes for this movie, which I don't really agree with, because like I said, he's invisible. You don't necessarily know what he's doing or thinking, and they actually make a good point to not explain too much of it. They could have had a big parlor room scene at the end where they explain what everyone was thinking and doing the entire movie, but they specifically choose to leave it vague and let you figure it out. And in turn, when some people say, why didn't this character do this, or why was this way, well, we don't know because it's not fully explained to us, but I think if we think about it for a minute, there's at least a plausible answer. But overall, this is really good, and it's a great direction I'd like to see these Universal remakes go, and just focus on making a good movie with an original concept that we can go, oh, I get that, this is cool, this is interesting, and don't like The Mummy trying to go full into a dark universe. Just make a few good movies and let the crossovers happen naturally. Do a few good ones and then maybe do a versus movie or two. Just, work slowly and carefully. Unfortunately, there's a channel, Mr. Sunday Movies, that talked about this. There is Universal's plan right now is kind of crazy, and look up the Mr. Sunday Movies video if you want to hear about it, but they're sort of just taking the monsters and doing a whole bunch of different stuff with them, and I'd prefer if they focused on the Blumhouse stuff, but there's even talks of like a Monster Mash movie, other stuff like more Invisible Man movies that aren't related, and it's just, I don't want this to get scatterbrained. I want this to be kept clean, so I'd prefer if they just focus on the Blumhouse stuff. But it sounds like Universal's just casting a wide net right now, but who knows if any of these will actually happen. Anyway, I really liked Invisible Man. I definitely recommend it. Yeah, if you enjoy the modern concept horror movies like It Follows or Don't Breathe or Quiet Place, I definitely recommend you check this one out. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys next time.